I know that she hasn't had her greatest season. I also know that she has been out with injury, but there is no person in the world who can convince me that there are 8 better guards than Caitlin Clark in the WNBA. Fortunately, I am not surprised that the players ranked her so low. However, I do take it as a sign of disrespect to Caitlin Clark.
It started as just another day in the WNBA news cycle until the All-Star rankings dropped. And then, chaos. The moment the list hit the timeline, fans knew something was off. Very off. Caitlin Clark, arguably the most talked about rookie in WNBA history, the same player whose presence alone caused ticket prices to triple and ratings to explode, was ranked 9th among guards. 9th.
To game plan and play defenses the way that you do against her. Why would you need to pay such close attention to the 9th best guard in the league?
Immediately, the reactions poured in. Social media exploded. Analysts were confused. Fans were furious. And most shockingly, the disrespect didn't seem to be coming from the fans. It was coming from the players themselves. Because in the WNBA All-Star voting process, the final tally isn't just about who gets the most fan love. It's a 3-pronged system. 50% fan vote, 25% media vote, and 25% player vote.
Finishers are based on 50% of the fan vote, 25% of the player votes, and 25% of the media votes.
And while Clark was leading the fan vote by a landslide, receiving more votes than anyone in the league, the player vote told a completely different story. It told a story of rejection, of exclusion.
She was the number 1 in fan rank, and we also saw that with the fan voting. She had over 1.29, I believe, million votes.
Of a cold shoulder that couldn't be ignored. Because when fans saw Clark buried below names that hadn't had half her impact this season, they knew exactly what it meant. This wasn't just about basketball. This was personal.
To be a WNBA All-Star, and then the media ranked her as the 3rd best guard, and the players ranked her as the 9th best guard.
Clark, a generational talent from Iowa who'd already broken viewership records during her college run, didn't just enter the WNBA, she invaded it. She brought millions of new fans. Brands lined up behind her. Every stadium she entered, regardless of location, sold out. But with all that attention came something else, resentment. And now, it was spilling out into the open. To some, it felt like a league-wide hazing. A rite of passage, maybe, but for many others, it felt worse. It felt deliberate. The player vote, arguably the most revealing part of the All-Star selection, ranked her not just behind veterans, but behind several players with significantly fewer points, assists, and less media attention. Fans began posting side-by-side stat comparisons. How is this player ahead of Clark? What has she done this season? Is this really about basketball? The truth? Probably not. Because beneath the surface, there's been a slow burn tension brewing in the WNBA for months now. A divide between the new wave of attention Clark brings and the old guard of the league, who, rightfully or not, feel overlooked in the process. Clark has become the face of a growing league, but not everyone is thrilled about it. Some players have voiced subtle criticisms since preseason. Comments about earning your stripes, hints at favoritism, snide remarks in press conferences, even body language during games, hard fouls, extended stares, lack of celebration when she makes plays, told the story long before the votes came in. But now it was out in the open, quantified. The fact that Clark was nearly dropped from the All-Star list entirely by her peers was a statement, and fans weren't having it.
Tweeted this from my account last night. I said, so much wasted energy face guarding, blitzing, and double teaming the 9th best guard in the league.
Within hours, hashtag Justice for Clark began trending. Fans flooded comment sections, tagging the WNBA, demanding accountability. Even non-WNBA fans, those who followed Clark from her college days, were shocked. How can the league expect to grow when it punishes the one person bringing in new fans? One tweet read, racking up over 50,000 likes. The numbers backed it up. Caitlin Clark wasn't just leading rookies in major stat categories. She was top 10 in assists, top 10 in three-pointers made, and had multiple 20-plus point games. On top of that, she was everywhere. Nike deals, ESPN segments, packed arenas, a walking, dribbling marketing miracle. And yet, ninth? Even former players and analysts were baffled. NBA legend Reggie Miller called the situation embarrassing. Stephen A. Smith went further, saying, "This is not just disrespectful. This is sabotage. It's jealousy disguised as gatekeeping." Sue Bird, usually diplomatic, hinted at the problem by saying, "When a player's impact off the court is dismissed, it's a problem. This league needs Caitlin Clark." And yet, Caitlin herself stayed silent, gracefully silent. That's the thing about Clark. While the noise around her is always loud, she rarely adds to it. She plays, she assists, she takes hard fouls, she gets up. No whining, no public clapbacks, just basketball. And in a way, that made the slight sting more. Because here was a rookie doing everything the league supposedly wants. Staying humble, working hard, playing team ball, boosting ratings. And she was still being iced out.
What Caitlin does, it seems to be something where she's either going to have to tirelessly earn the respect of her colleagues or she's never going to get it.
The fans saw it, and they weren't going to sit quietly. Clark's next game after the voting fiasco was a home match against Phoenix, and the atmosphere was electric. Chants of "All-Star, All-Star" echoed every time she touched the ball. Her intro was met with deafening cheers, a clear message to the league, and maybe even to her teammates. "We see you." She dropped 23 points and 8 assists that night. She didn't say a word about the vote, but her game screamed. Meanwhile, across the league, other players tried to walk the line. Some insisted the vote was just how it goes. Others said it's tough for rookies, but the fans weren't buying it. To them, it looked like envy. Plain and simple. It's not that Clark hadn't earned it, it's that she'd earned too much, too fast. In any workplace, when someone new gets all the praise, all the spotlight, it causes friction. The WNBA, a league that's fought for decades for respect, suddenly found itself under a global microscope.
Fortunately, I am not surprised that the players ranked her so low. However, I do take it as a sign of disrespect to Caitlin Clark.
And it was Clark holding the lens. For players who had to grind for years without that kind of attention, it wasn't just frustrating. It felt unfair. But from the outside looking in, fans saw it differently. They saw a once-in-a-generation player changing the game and getting punished for it. They saw a league that claimed it wanted growth, but shunned the very growth catalyst they'd been given. And most of all, they saw a community of athletes who were supposed to be empowering each other, but instead turned their backs. The All-Star rankings weren't just numbers. They were a mirror. They reflected the ugly truth that despite all the progress, internal politics and ego still rule the day.
Would you need to be physical with her if she wasn't that great of a player, or you're just wasting your energy and you just simply don't like her?
It didn't help that some of the players who ranked ahead of Clark had publicly liked posts mocking her, or had refused to shake hands post-game, or, worse, had thrown shade in interviews under the guise of competitive fire. To fans, it looked like bitterness. To the league, it was suddenly a PR nightmare. Because the backlash wasn't just loud, it was global. Caitlin Clark's audience isn't just Midwest basketball fans anymore. It includes celebrities, influencers, brands, and international media. And all of them now had one question. Why is the WNBA punishing its biggest star? Within days, league officials were quietly trying to control the narrative. Select media outlets received exclusive interviews with players to clarify the voting process. Some journalists were encouraged to publish balanced takes, suggesting that all-star voting is subjective and not always about stats. But the damage was done. The moment the rankings came out, the court of public opinion ruled, and ruled hard.
There's like this weighted calculation that they use to decide the top 10 players who would be the starters.
Clark eventually made the All-Star team, thanks to the overwhelming fan support and the media votes, which corrected the imbalance. But the stain was already there. And now the question looms. What happens next? Can Clark truly thrive in a league where the sisterhood seems fractured? Will the WNBA take steps to protect its stars, not just from opponents, but from internal sabotage? And more importantly, can the league survive the optics of what just happened? Because if you think this is the end of the story, think again. This is only the beginning of a deeper conversation about race, media, gatekeeping, and power dynamics in women's sports.
The best season of her career, and in seasons prior she was ranked higher by the players than she is this year, so there has to be some sort of proximity thing.
It's about the old guard versus the new face. It's about the price of fame in a league that claims to want it. It's about whether the WNBA is ready to grow or content to self-sabotage in the name of loyalty. For now, Caitlin Clark will keep showing up, keep scoring, keep elevating the game. But the fans? They're watching closely, loudly, furiously. And if this league isn't careful, they won't just lose a moment, they'll lose the movement that came with it.